we've managed, as a species, to create cities and thrive in almost every area of the world, even creating playgrounds in what would historically be considered hostile environments. One thing we never really see with our own eyes are fault lines. Earthquakes are devastating events if large enough, and something we realistically need to prepare for. On July 16, 1990, at 4:26 p.m., a magnitude 7.7 earthquake rocked the Philippine island of Luzon. The epicenter was the town of Rizal, which suffered 19 casualties, 1,000 homes destroyed, and the town hall completely demolished. However, most of the fatalities came from Baguio City, nicknamed the summer capital of the Philippines. Most of the 1,621 fatalities came from this city. This is the location we're going to focus on. Baguio is a city with one main road going down to the lowlands and two leading out into neighboring rural provinces. This created a dangerous situation. After the earthquake, all roads were blocked by debris from landslides. It took days of 24-hour work by volunteers of the mining industry and the Philippine Military Academy to clear the roads so supplies and additional relief workers could reach the city. The population density within the city was high. Multiple multi-story concrete buildings collapsed, and the constant rainfall compounded the problems facing rescue efforts. Because of the damage, clean water systems were starting to mix with sewer water. The volume of cross-contamination was too high, rendering the relief effort to give refugees chlorine tabs to purify water useless. Fire engines from neighboring areas ended up bringing additional water. The event was so devastating it changed local building practices. A risk assessment found that most casualties came from buildings that were greater than 7 stories and constructed of concrete without adequate reinforcement. Lots of people also returned to their homes in neighboring towns, opting instead to commute despite the longer travel time, just in case. Now that we have a quick basic understanding of the situation, what can you do if you live in a region that may one day have the big one? Enhancing your own survivability is the first step. Depending on where you work within your building, you have to identify fast escape routes. Ideally, you'd be working on the first floor. I understand that we can't pick, but this would give you the best chance of getting away. Knowing where the strong points in your building is a benefit, but never ever use a doorway. If you work inside and you work in an office, if you have a say, make sure that you have a strong, sturdy table, as solid as possible. Depending on your personal habits, it may or may not be a good thing, but in the context of an emergency, having food and water stocked up close by to this table or desk would be a good idea. Of course, if that's an option for you. 2 prominent survivors from a collapsed hotel survived by drinking their own urine, and a bodybuilder who worked in the kitchen lost his muscle mass but survived on rainwater that was coming in through the cracks. Having the potential to not need to resort to this kind of extreme, you may or may not be able to access that area of your desk if there was an emergency, but it's a good option to have nonetheless. Now, if you are fortunate to avoid being inside the building, wherever your safe zone is, and that's most likely where you live, make sure that you have at least 2 weeks worth of emergency supplies. I'm talking food and water. On top of that, make sure that you have no less than 1 month of medication on hand. You then have to identify key members to check on, whether they're your family, friends, or people on the outside that you trust. It would be a good idea to come with a predetermined rally point, as long as you all know where to meet in the event of an emergency of this magnitude, because that encourages them to prepare too. You're the one that's going to have to decide who you pull into your group, depending on your relationship with people. The biggest thing that we can observe from this event, though, is that community forces survivability. A strong community is going to pull out of an emergency, is going to rescue its people, is going to get life started again, compared to a fractured society. It would be a good time before an emergency to start to get to know your neighbors, because volunteers are the ones who cleared debris. Volunteers are the ones who helped reopen the roads. Volunteers are the ones who brought food and medical aid first. Working together speeds the response time and increases the survival of others. People were trapped in the debris for up to 2 weeks. The fact that they survived is excellent. If rescuers had taken any longer, they no doubt would have died. Now, of course, I'm not going to be able to name everything that you can do. My videos are just to kind of get you thinking about the different scenarios out there. Realistically, you can't plan for all of them, but if I can get you moving in the right direction, you can think about what's in your local area, what kind of challenges you'd personally face, because we're not all built the same. We're not all around the same type of people. I'm in a military town, We're definitely a lot more prepared for natural emergencies or man-made emergencies compared to other areas in the States, but maybe you live in a place that has its own unique issues. Those are the type of things that you need to address, but you can also learn from different areas who have faced disaster. I hope you have a good rest of your week, and until the next video, be good, stay safe, and have a good one.